The Galactic Council ruled the stars with pride. They had seen countless species rise and fall, and they believed that they were untouchable. They made laws that others followed. They made peace by force, and they believed that no one could ever challenge their power. For a long time they were right. But then came the humans, and everything began to change. Humans were strange to the Council. They came from a small world filled with danger. Their home, Earth, was not calm or safe like most Council worlds. It was a place where life had to fight every day to survive. When the humans joined the Council, they brought ideas of freedom, work, and honor. They helped rebuild dying planets, fixed broken fleets, and defended weak colonies. Even the Council members admitted that humanity was useful, if not always easy to control. Captain Hanul Park of the Terran Defense Fleet had served the Council for many years. She believed in peace and in cooperation. She trusted that the Council's purpose was noble. But that trust began to fade during the Scarvian raids. The Scarvians were a warlike species from the edge of the Orion Belt. They struck without warning, burning colonies and enslaving survivors. When the human colonies called for help, they expected the Council fleets to come. They waited for days, then weeks. Help never came. Hanul watched the reports on her ship, the Dagu's Light. Every day another colony went dark. The transmissions stopped with screams and static. Billions were dying, and the Council stayed silent. Their fleets protected only their own worlds. They called it a containment strategy. To Hanul, it was cowardice. Dr. Jiwan Choi, the ship's chief scientist, stood beside her. He stared at the images of burning cities and asked quietly, "Why aren't they coming?" His voice shook with disbelief. "We sent distress signals to every major fleet. The Council promised protection." Hanul didn't answer. She just kept watching the screen. The sound of explosions and broken voices filled the command deck. Finally, she whispered, "They left us to die." The Council believed that humanity would protest, argue, and beg for assistance. They thought the humans would come crawling back to the assembly, asking for forgiveness. But they didn't understand what kind of people humans really were. Instead of shouting, humanity grew quiet. Instead of war, there was withdrawal. And that silence was more frightening than any weapon. When the final human refugees from the frontier arrived, their ships were half destroyed, their engines failing. Hanul helped dock them personally. Children stepped out weak and hungry. One little boy asked her, "Did the Council forget us?" She had no answer to give him. On Earth, the news of the Council's betrayal spread quickly. Anger burned across nations, but it was not wild. It was cold and controlled. Governments met in secret. The Terran Assembly was formed. Leaders, scientists, and commanders from every human colony. Their decision was simple. No more dependence on the Council. Humanity would protect itself from now on. In the following months, human embassies closed one by one. The Council received no explanation, no threats, no statements. The humans simply packed up and left. Council representatives tried to contact Earth, but their messages went unanswered. One by one, human systems shut down their communication relays that connected to the Council network. Ambassador Ryute Kim, the last official human on the Council capital world Virella, attended his final meeting. The Council chamber was full of bright lights and arrogant voices. The Chancellor, a scaled alien named Torvask, leaned back and said, "You humans are emotional beings. You overreact. You will return once your anger cools." Ryutai stood silently. He placed his ambassador pin on the table and said, "We will not return. You broke what you cannot fix." Then he turned and walked out. None of the Council members stopped him. They thought his words were just human drama. They laughed as he left the chamber. But the laughter faded when the next day came and the human fleet withdrew from all Council patrols. The main space gates built by humans were shut down. Thousands of trade ships were left stranded. Council engineers tried to reopen them, but the systems were locked with codes only human operators knew. Soon, traffic across the galaxy slowed, and chaos spread through the markets. Hanul stood on the bridge of her ship and watched as the final human ship left Council territory. She gave one simple order: seal all relay gates. The command echoed through every fleet. Once the order was confirmed, the humans disappeared from Council space. The Council called an emergency meeting. Chancellor Torvask slammed his hand on the table. "They think they can isolate themselves. They will come begging when they realize how much they depend on us." His advisors agreed. But as weeks passed, small problems began to grow. Star routes became unsafe without human navigators. Medical shipments delayed because no one maintained the hyperlane beacons. Mining stations failed because they used human-designed reactors that no other species could repair. The Council realized that maybe they had underestimated humanity's contribution. Still, they did nothing to fix it. They were too proud. They issued statements blaming humans for disrupting interstellar order. But those words held no power anymore. The humans were gone. Back on Luna Base, Hanul met with Jiwan and several assembly officials. The mood was calm. There were no cheers or celebrations, only quiet focus. "We will build our own way," said Jiwan. "No more council approval. No more waiting for help," everyone agreed. They were tired of serving those who saw them as tools. Days turned into months. The human systems began to thrive again. Without council taxes and rules, development moved faster. New ships were built, stronger, faster, and more independent. The colonies rebuilt under the protection of the new Terran defense fleet. And through it all, humanity remained silent toward the outside galaxy. Meanwhile, on Virella, Chancellor Torvask grew impatient. "Send another envoy," he ordered. "Tell them the Council demands their return." But every envoy sent toward Sol disappeared at the border. Human defense satellites scanned and warned them off, but none dared to fight. The humans were silent, but their silence carried weight. It said, "Do not cross this line." Dr. Jiwan sometimes looked out at the stars and felt sadness. "We used to believe in unity," he told Hanul one evening. "Now we have only distance." She replied, "Maybe distance is what they need to understand." The galaxy didn't understand yet. They still thought the human silence was weakness. They didn't see that it was the calm before something greater. For the first time in centuries, the Council faced a power they could not threaten or buy. Humanity had chosen dignity over fear. One night, Hanul stood alone in her ship's observation deck. The stars of Council space glittered faintly in the distance. Somewhere out there, worlds still burned from the Scarvian raids, and the Council still ignored them. She clenched her fist and whispered, "They think they're untouchable. Let them believe that a little longer." And so humanity walked away. No war, no noise, no fury. Just quiet departure. The Council laughed at first, then worried, then began to fear. But by then it was already too late. The humans had turned their backs, and the galaxy did not yet understand that silence could be the loudest sound of all. The humans had left Council space, but the Council could not accept their absence. They were used to being in control, used to the way every species looked to them for guidance. The empty human seat in the Grand Assembly became a symbol that burned in their minds. Weeks passed, and the seat remained unoccupied. No envoy arrived, no message, no signal. The silence was unbearable for the Council, but it meant nothing to humanity. Ambassador Ryu Tai Kim had returned to Earth months ago. He left the Council chambers quietly, carrying only his personal belongings and a simple bag of documents. The other councillors had mocked him as he left. "He is weak," Torvask had said, showing his sharp teeth as he smirked. "He cannot stand the burden of our guidance." But the human ambassador did not reply to their laughter. He simply left, walking through the corridors of the Grand Assembly with calm steps. For him, the Council's pride was meaningless. Humanity had a different path now, a path built on survival, independence, and dignity. Back on Earth and its colonies, the Terran Assembly worked quietly but efficiently. They did not make speeches or issue threats. They did not threaten the Council with warships or with words. They simply acted. They repaired colonies, strengthened defenses, and began to expand trade and communication among human worlds, all without the Council's approval. Captain Hanul Park oversaw the military and logistics. Dr. Ji-Won Choi handled science and technology. Together they were careful, calm, and precise. They moved like a single organism, coordinated and strong. While the galaxy outside remained blind to their plans, Council members sent repeated envoys to Earth. Some were diplomats, some were traitors, and some were military officers who hoped to intimidate the humans. Each envoy arrived at the border and encountered nothing but silence. Sensors detected human patrols watching, but no one attacked. Satellites and automated defenses ensured the border was never crossed. The humans wanted no conflict, yet they allowed no intrusion. Their message was simple. They were in control of their own space, and the Council had no right to interfere. On Luna Base, Hanul gathered with Ji-Won, Captain Dai-Hyun, and several other officers. They discussed the council's reaction. They still think we are weak, Hanul said, her voice calm but firm. They do not understand that we do not need them. We never did, Jiwon nodded. Our technology, our fleets, our colonies, everything we built can survive without their help. They underestimate our strength because they have never faced real consequences. Life among humans continued quietly, but purposefully. Colonies grew stronger and self-sufficient. Engineers and scientists rebuilt and improved ships that had once been part of council fleets. Farms and hydroponic stations expanded to support larger populations. Education and training programs ensured every citizen learned survival skills, navigation, and defense strategies. The Terran Assembly operated with precision. Every decision was made with clear logic, not emotion. Humanity no longer relied on the Council for protection, trade, or governance. They relied on each other. Meanwhile, chaos began to spread across Council space. The Council had taken human contributions for granted for decades. Without humans maintaining stargates, navigation systems began to fail. Without human engineers, some fleets could not repair their own ships. Medical and supply networks, once kept operational by humans, faltered. Minor delays became serious crises. Colonies and star systems began to feel the strain. Many species that had once mocked humans now found themselves struggling to survive without their guidance. Hunger, disease, and disorganization spread quickly. For the first time, the galaxy understood what life without humans might truly be like. The Council continued to send messages, ignoring the growing crisis. Torvask still believed that humans would return. They are proud, but pride can be broken, he said to his advisors. They agreed, discussing plans to force diplomacy or even launch small attacks to pressure the humans. But none dared cross the border. Every attempt to push the humans met the same quiet resistance. No words were exchanged. No shots were fired. Humanity simply watched, calm and unyielding, waiting for no one. Dr. Jiwon Choi worked late into the night on new designs for starships. He explained his work to Hanul, showing calculations for faster engines, stronger shields, and automated defense systems. The Council cannot compete with this, Jiwon said. They still think we are small and dependent. They do not realize we are growing stronger every day. Hanul studied the stars outside the lab window and said nothing. She did not need to. Every new ship, every new system, every new colony was proof of human power. On one colony, Yuri, a young officer, spoke to a group of trainees. The galaxy laughed at our silence. They thought it was weakness. They did not understand. Strength does not need noise. Strength moves quietly, and it moves always forward. The trainees listened in silence, understanding the lesson. Humanity had learned to act without interference, without seeking approval. They had learned to survive on their own and to grow stronger in the quiet. Reports of the Council's failures grew worse. Systems without human maintenance collapsed. Trade routes failed, leaving resources stranded. Disease spread in poorly managed colonies. Panic slowly began to creep through the galaxy, though the Council still tried to maintain the appearance of control. They called meetings, issued orders, and sent threats. But every action without human guidance made matters worse. The galaxy's confidence in the Council began to crumble. Hanul and Jiwon watched the reports but remained calm. They still think we will come back, Hanul said one evening. They will learn the hard way. Jiwon nodded. Sometimes silence is stronger than any weapon. We do not need war to teach them a lesson. Humanity's strength did not come from fleets of warships or loud speeches. It came from preparation, organization, and self-reliance. They had become something the galaxy could not easily control or threaten. Years passed, and the Council became weaker. Their arrogance had blinded them to the humans' true power. They were no longer untouchable. Without human participation, their fleets became inefficient, their colonies struggled, and their influence waned. The galaxy slowly began to recognize the value of humanity, not because humans returned to help, but because their absence revealed how much the galaxy had depended on them. Humanity had shown that their strength lay not in the approval of others, but in their own unity, intelligence, and persistence. Through all of this, humans remained silent. They did not celebrate the Council's weakness, and they did not mock them. They simply continued to grow, to improve, to prepare. Each colony, each ship, each assembly meeting reinforced the idea that humanity's future belonged to themselves alone. The Council had assumed that humans could be controlled or ignored. Instead, humanity had moved beyond them quietly, deliberately, and permanently. and in that quiet, the galaxy began to change. Species that had relied on human guidance were forced to adapt. Some failed, some survived, and some grew stronger in ways they had never expected. But all knew the truth. Humans were no longer under anyone's command. They had chosen their path, and it was one that no one could reverse. Hanul stood once more on the bridge of the Dagu's light, looking at the stars. The council worlds were distant points of light, growing smaller as humanity moved forward. She felt no anger, no joy. She only felt the calm satisfaction of knowing that humanity had reclaimed its freedom. They had walked away not in weakness but in strength, and the council had not yet realized what that strength truly meant. The silence of humanity grew heavier with each passing day. The council still assumed that humans were weak, that they would return when they needed the galaxy's support. They did not see that absence could be more dangerous than war. Humanity did not shout and they did not strike. They simply acted on their own terms, building, protecting, and preparing, while the rest of the galaxy struggled to understand. On Titan Station, Dr. Jiwan Choi reviewed the latest reports from the outer colonies. The data was clear. Human systems were thriving and council systems were failing. Star lanes maintained by humans no longer worked for anyone else. Navigation beacons were left without upkeep, and countless ships were stranded in deep space. Colonies that depended on human medical fleets were suffering shortages. Disease and chaos spread in some areas, while human worlds quietly expanded, improved, and reinforced their own networks. Jiwan muttered, "Finally, they are seeing what we built for them." Captain Hanul Park stood on the bridge of the Dagu's light, observing the stars beyond the borders of Sol space. Her fleet patrolled silently, a watchful guardian rather than an aggressor. Officer Daehyun reported updates on patrols and border sensors. Every message confirmed the same truth. The Council's influence was fading where humans had withdrawn. Hanul did not smile or celebrate. Silence was stronger than any triumph. She simply said, "Let them feel it themselves." Council envoys continued to arrive at the edges of human space, hoping to negotiate or intimidate. Every envoy was met with the same calm response. Human patrols monitored them, but no shots were fired. Defense satellites warned them off, and the envoys returned, their reports filled with fear and uncertainty. Some species began to question the Council's wisdom. How could a galaxy once ruled by the Council now struggle to survive without human assistance? They whispered about the humans, their respect growing even in absence. On Mars colony, Officer Yuri trained a group of young recruits. They practiced navigation, engineering, and defensive maneuvers. The galaxy thought we were weak, he told them. They did not understand that our strength comes from unity and preparation. Our silence is our weapon, and our actions are our shield. We do not need to prove anything. We only need to exist. The trainees nodded, understanding that survival was stronger than noise, and that human power was not measured by speeches or battles, but by calm efficiency and careful planning. Meanwhile, the Council struggled to maintain its image. Torvask and his advisors blamed humans for the worsening conditions. Star lanes were failing, colonies were isolated, and trade routes were collapsing. Every effort to repair or maintain these systems without human guidance failed. Experiments with replication of human technology ended in disaster. Fleets malfunctioned, reactors melted, and communication networks broke down. Panic spread quietly through Council space. Hanul reviewed reports of these failures with Jiwan. "They still do not understand," she said. "They think they can force the galaxy to work without us." Jiwan nodded, checking his calculations. "They will learn the hard way. They will see that what they called weakness was real power. They both knew that humans could have intervened, but they chose not to. There was no need for revenge. The galaxy needed to learn the lesson of self-reliance, respect, and humility. On Luna Base, assembly members gathered to discuss progress. The colonies were thriving, resources were abundant, and fleets were strong. They planned expansion, exploration, and protection of their borders. Every decision was careful, measured, and deliberate. No human wanted unnecessary conflict, yet none would tolerate interference. Humanity was growing, not through aggression, but through preparation and unity. Council fleets tried small incursions to test human defenses, but they were quickly detected and blocked. There was no battle, no attack, just calm observation and silent warning. Every failed attempt reinforced the message. Humanity would not be controlled and intrusion would not be tolerated. For the Council, this was a shock. They had always relied on fear to enforce obedience. Now they were powerless to intimidate a species that did not respond to fear or anger. In the colonies, humans continued daily life, yet every activity reinforced independence. Engineers improved hyperdrives, scientists discovered new energy sources, and officers trained for every possible scenario. Dr. Jiwan worked on building new communication networks that did not rely on the Council. Captain Hanul ensured that fleets were ready to protect human worlds. Everyone had a role and everyone understood the purpose. Humanity could survive and thrive without anyone else. On one quiet night, Hanul stood alone in her observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly before her, distant points of light that had once seemed familiar and safe. Now they were unpredictable, dangerous, and unstable without human guidance. "They do not know what is coming," she whispered. The galaxy had believed that humans were dependent, that they were weak, and that absence was harmless. But absence had power. Quiet, calm, careful absence had already begun to reshape the stars. Council worlds began to realize the truth. Reports of failing colonies, broken trade routes, and star lanes collapsing reached Torvask. Panic quietly replaced arrogance. Council leaders began to whisper in fear, no longer confident in their control. Some species that had relied on humans begged for help. They sent envoys to Earth not with threats but with pleas. But humanity, calm and prepared, did not act. They waited, letting the galaxy understand the lesson of absence. Hanul and Jiwan observed these developments from Luna Base. "They are learning," Jiwan said quietly. "Not through war, not through words, but through the emptiness we left." Hanul nodded. "Silence teaches better than anger, and they will not forget it." The lesson was not just for the Council, but for every species that had underestimated humans. It was a lesson in respect, humility, and understanding that strength could exist without confrontation. As the years passed, human influence grew quietly, while the Council's power slowly diminished. Human colonies expanded, creating networks of communication, trade, and defense independent of the Council. Other species began to see the truth. Humans could exist without them, and they had proven it. Humanity had chosen to walk away not in anger but in silence, showing that their strength was in their unity and careful preparation. In Council space, desperation grew. Attempts to regain control failed repeatedly. Every effort to replace humans or replicate their technology ended in disaster. Species that had once mocked humans now realized that they had depended on them for survival. The silence of humanity had become a form of power. It had exposed the Council's weaknesses and forced the galaxy to recognize the value of the human's presence. On Titan Station, Dr. Jiwan looked at the data one more time. "They are starting to understand," he said. "The Council cannot fix what we built for ourselves. They cannot replace us." Hanul watched the stars, her expression calm but firm. "We do not need to act. They will learn. And when they do, the lesson will be clear." Humanity did not celebrate the Council's growing panic. They did not mock them or demand submission. They simply continued their work, preparing their colonies, fleets, and systems. Every new achievement strengthened their independence. Every successful mission proved that humans were capable of surviving and thriving without interference. Their silence was not weakness. It was quiet, unyielding strength. The galaxy watched in fear and confusion, slowly realizing that the humans were not the same species they had once underestimated. They were more than allies, more than friends, more than partners. They were a force built on calm purpose, intelligence, and unity, and they had chosen their own path, a path that no Council or alien species could control. Humanity's lesson was clear. Strength does not require noise, and power does not require aggression. Sometimes the loudest declaration is made by doing nothing at all. The Council had laughed when humans walked away. Now they trembled in quiet fear, forced to confront the consequences of their own arrogance. The humans had left, yet they were more present than ever in the galaxy's conscience. The Council was beginning to realize that their arrogance had been dangerous. They had assumed humans would obey, that they would return when called, and that silence meant submission. But they were wrong. Humanity did not need the Council. Humanity did not fear the Council. And humanity did not act out of anger or hatred. They acted out of preparation, intelligence, and quiet strength. On Earth, the Terran Assembly met in a large hall filled with sunlight and screens showing every colony's progress. Captain Hunul Park reviewed reports from fleets stationed along the borders of Sol space. Every patrol confirmed the same truth. The Council had no way to interfere. Defense satellites monitored all crossings. Stargates were secured. Human fleets could respond quickly if necessary, but they did not need to attack. Humanity's strength was in being calm, patient, and ready. Dr. Ji-won Choi showed new designs for automated defense systems. The Council believes they can pressure us with small attacks, he said, but they cannot even reach our borders without detection. We have built networks that make intrusion impossible. They are learning slowly, but they will understand the lesson. Hanul nodded silently. Preparation was always better than reaction. Humans had learned that over millennia, and now the Council was about to learn it too. Council worlds were struggling. Trade routes without human maintenance failed. Colonies that relied on human technology were collapsing. Star lanes were unsafe. The Council tried to replicate human systems, but they lacked the knowledge, skill, and understanding that humans had built into every system. Attempts to rebuild failed. Fleets broke down. Communication networks went dark. Panic began to spread among those who had once trusted the Council. Even smaller species that had once mocked humans were starting to understand their absence. Messages from desperate colonies reached Earth, not as demands but as requests for information. They did not ask for humans to intervene. They asked questions about survival, about rebuilding, about independence. Humans provided advice only when it helped species protect themselves, never as a favor to the Council. Humanity had not returned to help. Humanity had not fought. Humanity had shown that knowledge, preparation, and calm planning were more powerful than threats. On Luna Base, the Terran Assembly continued planning. Officers like Dae-hyun and Yuri trained new recruits. Colonies sent reports of successful operations, repairs, and expansions. Resources were growing, fleets were increasing in size and efficiency, and defense systems were now automated and advanced beyond what the Council could imagine. Humanity's focus was not on revenge but on survival and self-sufficiency, and in that focus they became unstoppable. Council fleets made desperate attempts to regain control. Small ships approached human borders, hoping for negotiation or intimidation. Each time they were detected and turned away. No shots were fired. No fleets were destroyed. Just calm, precise warnings that made clear humanity would not tolerate intrusion. Envoys returned in fear, carrying reports that spread anxiety through the Council chambers. Leaders whispered, no longer confident. The humans had become untouchable, not because of aggression but because of careful planning, unity, and patience. Dr. Ji-won reviewed reports of Council experiments to replicate human technology. Every failure was recorded. Ships malfunctioned. Reactors overheated. Communication devices failed. The Council could not fix what humans had built. Humanity's designs were precise, intelligent, and adaptable. They had built systems not just for efficiency, but for resilience. And now that resilience was showing its value as the galaxy descended into chaos without human maintenance. On Mars Colony, Yuri spoke to a group of young trainees. The galaxy believes the humans are weak, he said. They do not understand. Strength is quiet. Power is patient. We do not need to prove ourselves. Our work is proof enough. They will learn the lesson without our interference. The trainees listened in silence, understanding the truth. Humanity's actions were not loud, but they were powerful. Humanity had chosen to leave, to focus on its own growth, and that choice was more devastating to the Council than any fleet or weapon. Meanwhile, on Titan Station, Hanul studied maps of failing Council systems. Colonies were isolated, fleets were broken, and resources were stranded. The Council had relied on humans for too long, and now the consequences were clear. The galaxy was suffering. Humans could have intervened. They could have helped repair, rebuild, and stabilize. But they chose not to. Their silence was intentional, a lesson to all who had underestimated them. Ji-won spoke quietly to Hanul as they observed the situation. "We could fix some of this," he said. "We could stop the suffering." Hanul shook her head. "We do not interfere." We warned them and they laughed. Let the galaxy learn through experience. That is the only way respect can be earned. Their calm, deliberate decision defined humanity's approach. They did not act for fear or for revenge or for glory. They acted only in defense of their own independence. Across human space, colonies continued to grow. New starships were launched, equipped with advanced shields and weapons not for aggression but for protection. Medical stations and food supply networks ensured that no colony would ever be vulnerable. Scientists discovered new energy sources. Engineers built stronger fleets. Every action strengthened humanity's independence. Every decision reinforced the lesson. Humans would survive and thrive without the Council. Council leaders grew desperate. They tried to send messages demanding compliance, reminding humanity of their obligations. They threatened sanctions that had no effect. They sent fleets to show force, but they were blocked at the borders. The Council had no leverage, no advantage, no power to force the humans to return. The humans had removed themselves from the equation, and the galaxy was starting to feel the impact. Back on Luna Base, Hanul looked out at the stars and reflected on the years that had passed. Humanity had walked away in silence, and in that silence they had taught the galaxy the value of respect and the dangers of arrogance. They had not fought, but they had already won. Their quiet strength had reshaped the galaxy. The Council was weaker, other species were learning independence, and humanity had grown stronger than anyone could have imagined. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy realized that silence could be more powerful than war. The Council had assumed control was maintained through fear. That power was shown in loud voices and strong weapons. Humanity had proven the opposite. Strength came from preparation, unity, intelligence, and calm action. Humans did not need to strike to be dangerous. Their absence was enough to change the stars. Hanul turned to Jiwan and smiled faintly. "They think they understand us now," she said. "But they do not. They will only truly understand when they see what absence really means." Jiwan nodded. Humanity had created a galaxy that relied on them without even trying. They had given the Council a taste of humility. The lesson was not yet complete, but it would be remembered. As fleets moved quietly through human-controlled space, colonies grew and thrived, and preparations continued. Humanity's lesson was simple. Respect cannot be demanded, it must be earned. And the galaxy would learn it, not through conflict but through observation, failure, and the quiet power of human unity. The Council had laughed when the humans walked away. Now they trembled, helpless to stop the consequences of their own arrogance. And the humans, calm, prepared, and patient, did not intervene. They watched, they built, and they waited for the galaxy to understand. Years passed and the galaxy slowly changed. The Council, once confident in its power, had become uncertain. Worlds that had relied on humans were struggling. Fleets were failing, stargates were collapsing, and trade routes were broken. They had assumed humanity would obey, that humans would return when called, but they were wrong. Humanity had walked away, and the galaxy had begun to feel the consequences. On Earth, the Terran Assembly watched these developments with calm attention. Captain Hanul Park reviewed fleet reports while Dr. Jiwan Choi analyzed new scientific data from the colonies. Every report confirmed the same truth. Humans were strong, independent, and united. Every effort to interfere from outside human space had failed. Humans had built networks, fleets, and defenses that no other species could match. They had grown quietly while the galaxy stumbled, and that quiet strength now spoke louder than any weapon. In the council chambers, Torvask paced angrily. "They will return," he said to his advisors. "They have no choice. They will see that they need us." But the advisors shook their heads. Systems continued to fail, and communication with distant colonies was unreliable. The galaxy had begun to recognize a simple truth. Humans could survive, thrive, and expand without the Council's permission or guidance. Torvask's anger grew, but he could do nothing. Humanity had removed them from the equation. Back on Luna Base, Hanul spoke to a gathering of assembly members. "The galaxy is learning," she said. "They will see that strength comes from unity, preparation, and careful planning, not from arrogance or force." Jiwan added, "We could intervene, but we choose not to. This lesson is theirs to learn." Humanity had no need to fight, no need to demand obedience, and no need to prove itself. Their existence alone was enough to teach respect. Human colonies continued to expand. New starships launched from Earth and Mars, equipped with advanced shields, engines, and defense systems. Resources were gathered efficiently, colonies were self-sufficient, and fleets patrolled borders calmly without aggression. Humans prepared for any threat, but they did not seek conflict. Their power lay not in war but in careful planning, preparation, and unity. The galaxy could not challenge them, because humanity no longer relied on anyone else. In council space, species that had once mocked humans now sent pleas for advice and assistance. They did not ask for humans to intervene directly, but they sought knowledge and guidance. Humanity provided information only to help them survive independently, never as a favor to the council. Every answer emphasized preparation and self-reliance. Humans were teaching the galaxy a lesson. Survival and respect could not be demanded, they must be earned. Hanul stood on the bridge of the Dagu's light, looking out at the stars. Council worlds were distant points of light, fragile and unstable without human support. She thought about the past, about the Scarvian raids and the billions of lives lost while the council ignored them. Humanity had chosen not revenge, not war, but silence. Silence had power. Quiet action had changed the galaxy more than fleets or weapons ever could. Dr. G1 approached her. "They will never forget us," he said quietly. "The council, the galaxy, they will remember what absence teaches." Hanul nodded. Humanity's lesson was simple, but it was deep. Respect cannot be forced, obedience cannot be demanded, and arrogance is dangerous. Silence can carry more weight than any speech, and absence can teach more than war. Humanity had proven that truth. In the colonies, new generations of humans were trained in survival, science, navigation, and defense. Education was rigorous but fair, and every citizen understood the importance of unity and preparation. They learned that strength came not from arrogance, aggression, or domination, but from intelligence, collaboration, and careful planning. Humanity had walked away from the council, but they had not walked away from responsibility. They had created a galaxy where survival and growth depended on wisdom, not fear. Council leaders became desperate. They tried to regain control through threats and diplomacy, but they were ignored. Fleets sent to pressure human space were blocked without violence. The council had no leverage. Humanity had removed the possibility of coercion simply by being prepared, organized, and silent. The galaxy slowly recognized that humans were no longer a species to be controlled. They were a force to be respected. On Luna Base, Hanul met with G1 and the Terran Assembly. "We do not seek war," she said. "We only protect what is ours. The galaxy will learn respect in time." G1 nodded. Humanity had done what no one else could do. They had proven that true strength was in independence, patience, and careful action. They did not need to fight to be powerful. They simply needed to exist united and ready. Reports continued to arrive from the Council and other species. Star systems without human maintenance were failing. Trade routes were blocked. Fleets were stranded. The galaxy, which had once mocked humans as weak and dependent, began to tremble. They had underestimated humans for centuries. The lesson of absence was more powerful than any war, any fleet, or any threat. Humanity had taught it without firing a single shot. Hanul and G1 reflected on all that had happened. "We could have fought," Hanul said. "We could have demanded respect, but it would not have been the same." G1 agreed. This way they learn humility. They learn that arrogance is dangerous. They see the strength of preparation and unity. They learn without us destroying them. Humanity had chosen a quiet, patient path, and it was more effective than any battle could have been. Over the following years, the galaxy slowly came to understand. They saw that humans could survive, thrive, and expand without interference. They recognized that the Council was no longer untouchable. They realized that arrogance could destroy even the strongest, and they learned that true strength was quiet, careful, and patient. Humanity had changed the galaxy not through war or conquest, but through silence and preparation. On Earth, Hanul watched young recruits train. Scientists develop new technology and fleets patrol the borders. Humanity had rebuilt itself stronger than ever. They had learned from past betrayals and had chosen a path of careful independence. The galaxy could tremble, panic, and plead. Humanity would listen if it wished, but it would never bow or submit. Respect had to be earned, not demanded. Obedience could not be forced. The Council's power continued to fade. Worlds once reliant on them struggled to survive. Species that had depended on human systems learned independence the hard way. And throughout the galaxy, humans quietly expanded, explored, and protected their space. Their presence was strong, calm, and unyielding, yet they sought no revenge. They had proven that absence could teach more than war, and silence could speak louder than any speech. Hanul stood alone one night, looking at the stars. "They will finally understand," she whispered. "They will see that we are not weak, that our silence is strength and that our absence is power." Humanity had walked away from the council in silence. They had not returned with war or fury. They had returned with calm preparation, intelligence, and unity. And in that quiet, the galaxy learned humility. The humans did not celebrate. They did not seek glory. They simply continued to grow stronger, more united and more independent. Their lesson was complete, not through destruction but through the quiet demonstration of their power. The council had assumed control, only to find it was an illusion. Humanity had moved beyond them. They had walked away, and in that act they had changed the stars forever. The galaxy's historians would write, "When humans walked away, the council laughed. They thought it was weakness. They did not understand that silence was a weapon, and absence a lesson." Humanity had taught that respect cannot be demanded, obedience cannot be forced, and arrogance can be dangerous. True strength lies in unity, preparation, and calm action. The humans had walked away, but in their silence they had already won.